Months later, on March 19, 1987, Jim Bakker resigned in disgrace from PTL after his December 1980 sexual encounter with Jessica Hahn in a Florida hotel room became public. Hahn described Bakker forcing himself on her in an article in Playboy, while he claimed that she was a professional who knew all the tricks of the trade. In the wake of the Hahn revelation, stories appeared about Bakker's involvement in gay relationships and visits to prostitutes, sometimes wearing a blonde wig as a disguise. A decade later, in 1996, Bakker revealed that he had been sexually abused from age 11 until he was in high school by an adult man from his church, leaving him with a confused sexual identity and a deep sense of guilt and inferiority. The memories became ghosts that swarmed through my thoughts at vulnerable moments. The 1987 scandal was initially about sex, but it soon turned to money after it was discovered that PTL had paid Hahn and her representatives $265,000 in hush money. When he resigned, Bakker turned the ministry over to fundamentalist preacher Jerry Falwell. He and his team quickly discovered that PTL was $65 million in debt and bleeding money at a rate of $2 million a month. That summer, workers boarded up the unfinished Towers Hotel, which never opened. Falwell and his entire staff left PTL in October 1987, less than 7 months after he took charge of the ministry. When he took over, Falwell praised PTL as one of the major miracle ministries of this century. I doubt there's ever been anything like it in the 2,000-year history of the church. When he left, he declared that Bakker had turned PTL into a scab and cancer on the face of Christianity, a disaster unparalleled in the last 2,000 years. By then, PTL was already in bankruptcy, headed for liquidation. 2 years later, in 1989, Bakker went on trial for wire and mail fraud, accused of overselling lifetime partnerships to Heritage USA and misusing the money donated for its construction. The trial unfolded in a circus-like atmosphere before U.S. District Judge Robert Maximum Bob Potter. A witness collapsed on the stand, and Bakker himself had a psychological breakdown, crawling under his lawyer's couch as federal marshals came to get him. He was convicted and initially sentenced to 45 years in prison, serving nearly 5 years before his release. For millions who watched the scandal unfold in the press and on television, PTL and the Bakkers became a national symbol of the excesses of the 1980s and the greed of televangelists in particular. In both its rise and fall, PTL demonstrates the power of religion to connect with American culture. The creation of PTL and Heritage USA followed a well-established trajectory in American evangelicalism as it evolved from field preaching to camp meetings to big tent revivals to radio and television. George Whitefield, the famous evangelist of the Great Awakening, became colonial America's first celebrity, delivering dramatic sermons outdoors to tens of thousands at a time when America's largest cities numbered fewer than 40,000 people. Camp meetings, pioneered by the Methodists in the early 19th century, invited the faithful to bring their wagons and tents, sometimes by the thousands, and gather in a festive atmosphere for preaching, worship, prayer, and fellowship. The theatrical nature of camp meetings, with their nighttime preaching under the somber glow of torches, accompanied by the shrieks and groans of seekers, only added to their appeal. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Billy Sunday, a former professional baseball player, and other big tent evangelists combined religion and mass entertainment in ways that drew millions annually to their revivals. Their tents could transform almost any public space into the site of a crusade, and they appeared regularly on the front pages of America's newspapers. Over the course of his career, which reached its height in the pre-World War I years, Sunday preached to more than 100 million people, converting more than 1 million of them. Amy Semple McPherson preached in tents early in her career before moving to Los Angeles and building a megachurch, Angelus Temple. In 1924, she started her own radio station,